Hey YouTube, it's AI Enigma here. So this is our first session in Road to CAT VARC series. This is an economics based RC, and as usual I will provide the PDF of the session in the comment section below, so you can download it, try the RC yourself, and then you can watch the solution. Mainstream economic theory claims that without intellectual property protection, innovators lack the incentive to bring new products to market because they cannot recoup their cost. So, first thing that's been mentioned here immediately is the reference of, you can say, mainstream economic theory. There's a mainstream economic theories. It actually claims that if there is no intellectual property protection, then the innovators will actually lack the incentive to bring new products to market, and it also gives you the reason because they cannot recoup their cost. So this is the claim that the mainstream economic theories is making. But in the collaborative norms, millions of innovators are defining this received wisdom, co-creating and using free open software known as FOSS, as well as free open source hardware or FOSH. The main thing has to be noted here, that in collaborative norms, which millions of people are actually collaborating, and innovators are defining this, the mainstream claim of the claim which is mainstream theory is making, and they are actually co-creating and using free open software which is called as FOSS, and using free open software hardware or whatever you call it, that's called FOSH. So they're using FOSS and FOSH. It's a spirit embodied by Martin Jakubowski, physicist and Mississippian farmer who, frustrated by the extortionate cost of farm machinery that keep breaking down, decided to build his own while sharing his ever-improving designs online from free. So this is a supporting detail that it all started with the spirit which was started by Martin Jakubowski, and it's provided the detail. He was a physicist and Mississippian farmer, and he was frustrated by the extortionate cost of farm machinery that it kept breaking down. So he designed his own, and he shared those designs onto the online platform for free. His idea soon grew into the global village construction set, which demonstrates step by step how to build from scratch 50 universally useful machines, from tractors to wind turbines. And the idea, which was embodied by Martin Jakubowski, grew into what we can call into a global village construction set, and where all this, you can say, step-by-step demonstration was occurring. So far, so good. The designs have been recreated by innovators worldwide. Based on these success, Jakubowski and his collaborators have since launched the Open Building Institute, which aims to make open source designs for ecological, off-grid, affordable housing available to all. So we can say that based on these successes which Jakubowski and his collaborators have done, they have launched the Open Building Institute, and which is aiming to make open source designs for ecological, off-grid, affordable housing for all. Their motto that has to be important, that our goal is decentralized production, he explains. So their goal is decentralized production. So based on the first paragraph, we can more or less we can confirm that the main argument of the first paragraph, or the main essence of the first paragraph, is the claim that the mainstream economic theory is making, that without intellectual property protection, that is IP, innovators don't have the incentive to, you can say, bring new products to the market, and they can actually, because they cannot recoup the cost. That's the claim is making. But in actual reality, millions of collaborative innovators are using innovative software, that are free innovating software and hardware. So this is the main crux and essence, and after that, this is just the supporting details. If needed, we can just come back to this paragraph again. Open source design also promises large social benefits and cost saving for state funded institutions in every country, say Joshua Pierce, a leading academic and engineer in FOSH. So author is saying that the open source designs, not only does open source design, you can say, allows the innovators to recoup cost, but it also promises large social benefits and cost saving for state funded institutions in every country. Now this claim is actually not made by author. This claim is made by Joshua Pierce, a leading academic and engineer in FOSH. This is like sometimes this is like really irrelevant. You can just skip this information. You're not going to be needing this. His research into the economics of FOSS manufacturing finds that using open source 3D printers and designs to produce essential scientific equipment slashes cost, making such equipment far more affordable and accessible worldwide. So what is his research finds? This is really important. His research finds that if you are using 3D printers and designs to produce essential equipment, it will actually be cheaper. It slashes cost because it makes such equipment far more affordable and accessible worldwide. The conclusion, says Pierce, is that FOSH development should be funded by organizations interested in maximizing return on public investment in technologies associated with science, medicine, and education. So, the conclusion we can conclude here, that the conclusion that peers make is that FOSH development, like the development of the hardware and the software, which is completely free, it should be funded by organizations It should be funded by organizations which are interested in maximizing return on public investment in fields such as technology, which are associated with science, medicine, and education. So the main point of the author in the second paragraph is he highlights the claim which is made by Joshua Pierce, is that open source designs is, you can say, had not only you can say it has large social benefits, but it provides cost saving as well. And if we use that, he also, and for that author provides an example of the study of the research of Joshua Pierce, in which it is being described that 3D printers and designs actually cuts cost rather than increasing those costs. Then after, on to the third paragraph, the digital revolution is unleashed an era of collaborative knowledge creation that has the potential to radically decentralize the ownership of wealth. So one of the claim has been made that the digital revolution, what digital revolution has unleashed an era of collaborative knowledge creation, due to which, and it has the potential to radically decentralize the ownership of wealth. We can say that the ownership of wealth can be radically decentralized by the digital revolution that has been occurring. But there has to be a contrast again. Argues the communist theorist Michael Bowens, it is unlikely to reach its potential without state support. So Michael Bowens holds a view that although it has the potential, but it is unlikely to reach the potential, because if there is no state support is needed if he wants to, you can say, decentralize the ownership of wealth. Then he goes on to say, just as corporate capitalism has long depended on the backing of government policies, public funding, and pro business legislation, the commons need the backing of a partner state whose aim is to enable the creation of common value. So he draws on the parallels between two things. He says that just as corporate capitalism has always been dependent on the backing of the government policies and public funding and pro business legislation, and by the same manner, the common also needs the backing of a partner state whose aim is to enable the creation of common value, to create the values that the common people hold. The state can start helping the common knowledge. The state can start helping the knowledge commons to realize its potential in 5 key ways. First, invest in human ingenuity. So first thing is that you have to first invest in human ingenuity by teaching social entrepreneurship, problem solving, collaboration in schools and university worldwide. Such skills will equip the next generation to innovate in open source networks like no generation before them. So author first is acknowledging that you have to invest in human ingenuity by teaching skills to the younger people, society, and you can say in schools and university, so that they will be equipped with skills which was, you can say, unheard of to the no generation before them. Earlier generation were not equipped for those. You have to do this. The first thing is that. Second, ensure that all publicly funded research becomes public knowledge. Okay, so by contractually requiring it to be licensed in the knowledge commons. So second thing, we have to ensure that all funded research that's being done by the common people, it becomes a public knowledge. It shouldn't be kept aside. It should become public by contractually requiring it to be licensed in the knowledge commons. So it should be licensed to the common people. Third, roll back to the excessive research. Roll back the excessive reach of corporate intellectual property claims in order to prevent spurious patent and copyright application from encroaching on the knowledge commons. Encroaching means intruding. This means intrude. So let's read it again. The author is making that you have to, you can say, roll back the excessive reach of corporate patents, corporate intellectual property claims, in order to prevent spurious patent, fake patents onto fake and false patent and copyright application that are intrude on the knowledge commons. So you have to stop that. Fourth, publicly fund on setup of community maker spaces, places where innovators can meet and experiment with shared use of 3D printers as essential tools for hardware construction. So author is definitely saying that publicly fund the setup of communities where innovators meet. So that is also author is advocating for. And lastly, encourage the spread of civic organizations from cooperative societies to student groups and innovative clubs, because their interconnections turns into very nodes that bring such peer-to-peer network alive. So at the last, author is saying that you should be encouraging the spread of civic organizations, innovation clubs and student groups, which are, you can say, involved in innovations. So far so good. This passage deals about the five main, the crux of the essence are these five things that have been said in the paragraph. And as far as you can say, this is like a relatively moderate passage. There is no complexity that's been involved in the passage. So the flow of the ideas is also pretty straightforward. So let's look at the questions. According to the passage, how do free open source software and the free open source hardware challenges mainstream economic theory on intellectual property protections. Now, first thing is that you have to prepare shadow answers in such a questions. First thing is that what was the claim that was made by mainstream economic theory on intellectual property protections? If you remember it right, the claim that the mainstream economic theory made was that innovators were not able to, you can say, IP protection, like excessive IP protection is necessary because innovators won't have the incentive to recoup the cost. That was the claim. If you can, if you just go back also, this was the claim that, without intellectual property protection, innovators lack the incentive to bring new products to market as they cannot recoup their cost. So this is the claim that the mainstream economic theory is making. So we have to provide it, you can say, challenge. We have to make it false. We have to make the challenge or the claim of this mainstream economic theory false. So let's look at the options. By providing that FOSS and FOSH can be easily made available at no or low cost, making them accessible to a wide range of users. The main problem with this is that although the passage has said that FOSS and FOSH can be, they can be, they are be utilized by millions of people, but there is no way that the passage is mentioned that they can, they provide an accessibility to a wide range of users, because can be easily made available at no or low cost, making them accessible to wide range of users. Although if it is true as well, it doesn't challenge the mainstream economic theory, because the mainstream economic theory says that innovators are not being able to recoup the cost. So this is not the answer. By demonstrating that FOSS and FOSH projects foster innovation and accelerate the development of the new feature and improvement. Let's say this is true, like FOSS and FOSH project foster innovation and accelerate the development of new features and improvements. But does that contradicts the claim of the mainstream economic theory? No, it doesn't, because the mainstream economic theory claims that you can say IP protection is important because innovators doesn't have the incentive and they cannot recoup cost. So recoup cost angle is not covered here. They are saying that FOSS and FOSH project foster innovation. Although the author, it doesn't have mentioned here that they accelerate the development. Like this accelerate the development is also not specifically in align with the passage as well. And the main thing is that this is not even contradicting what you can say, or challenging the claim that the mainstream economic theory is making. So this is not the answer. By showing that FOSS and FOSH can redeem cost without the need for intellectual property protection, and this is precisely what challenges the mainstream economic theory. It says that FOSS and FOSH can redeem cost, like FOSS and FOSH can recoup cost, like there's no need for intellectual protection rights, because FOSS and FOSH, these open softwares, can actually redeem cost, they can recoup the cost. So there is no need for excessive intellectual property protection. So this precisely challenges the mainstream economic theory's argument that it has. So definitely an answer. Let's check further. By highlighting the irrelevance of intellectual property protection in maintaining a competitive market. There is no mention of the competitive market, so this is like an alien statement itself. So therefore the answer is third. Which of the following, if true, would best support Joshua Pierce's argument in the second paragraph? Now we have to remember which of the following, if true. The author says if true, would best support. So we need Joshua Pierce's argument in the second paragraph. So we need an option which actually supports Joshua Pierce's argument in the second paragraph. And what was Joshua Pierce's argument in the second paragraph? Let's just go back. Joshua Pierce says that his research finds that using open source 3D printers and designed to produce essential scientific equipment slashes cost, making such equipment far more affordable and accessible worldwide. So the claim that Joshua Pierce is making is that if you use FOSH, then actually it slashes cost. It makes the things cheaper, scientific equipment cheaper. That's the claim that the Joshua Pierce is making. So let's look for the option. Open source 3D printed scientific equipment is higher maintenance cost compared to proprietary alternative. This is definitely wrong. Like we don't want an option which actually goes against Joshua Pierce's statement. So this is definitely wrong. Second, the majority of scientific research tend to favor proprietary equipment because of its exclusive nature. This is also completely wrong. We are saying that majority of scientific research tend to favor proprietary equipment. Proprietary, which something which is privately owned, like owned technologies, patented equipment. Because of its exclusive nature, they do not prefer. They don't prefer that. So this is completely wrong. And this is actually if true. So it doesn't needs to be mentioned in the passage, but if that is specifically true, then that will support the Joshua Pierce argument. The growth of the open source hardware industry has no significant important innovation in scientific community. It makes the whole argument itself fall apart. If you are saying that although whatever open art industries goes soars or doesn't so develops or not develops, it has no significant impact on innovation in the scientific community. So this doesn't make any sense, and this makes the argument fall apart. So immediately fourth is the answer. Let's check further. State funded institutions do not have enough budget to purchase proprietary scientific equipment without financial strain, and this is exactly what Joshua Pierce's argument was, is that if your uses open software, this can actually cut cost. And what this statement is saying is that state funded institutions actually do not have enough budget to purchase proprietary, which means like privately owned scientific equipment without financial constraint, because they are patented and they are extremely high in price. Due to that, they have state funded institutions have to purchase those, and it becomes a financial strain. So if you invest in, you can say, open source technology and open source software such as FOSS and FOSH, then it would actually cut cost. That was the argument that Joshua Pierce was making, and this actually supports that argument if it is true. So the answer to the second question is fourth. Question number third. Which of the following measures would commons theorist Michael Bowens would most likely disapprove of? The use of Michael Bowens was in paragraph 3, where he said that the digital revolution, you can say, has the potential, and the collaborative knowledge has the potential to decentralize wealth, but it is unlikely to reach the potential if it is not state supported, and he then gives us the 5 ways by this can be achieved. So these are the claims of Michael Bowens. Now we have to you can say disapprove of, we have to go against Michael Bowens. So we have to look for which is something negative, and if it is positive, then that is not an answer. Promoting the establishment of various civic organizations to strengthen collaborative networks, this has obviously been said by Michael Bowens, so this is positive, this is in line with what he has said. Supporting the creation of public spaces for innovators to access shared tools and resources, this has also been said by Michael Bowens, hence it is not the answer. Strengthening exclusivity of knowledge and ideas through stringent intellectual property protection, this is actually not said by Michael Bowens. Michael Bowens goes against it. He says that it should become public knowledge, it shouldn't be, you can say, patented or IP protected. That's the thing that Michael Bowens has not said, so this is definitely against him. Advocating for dissemination of publicly funded research findings within the knowledge commons, yes, this Michael Bowens supports of. So definitely we will say third is the answer to this question. On to the last question. Which of the following sets of terms best serve as keywords in the passage? Okay, so we have to look for the terms which are keywords according to the passage. Intellectual property, yes, can be true. Open source. Centralized production, this is actually wrong. We are not talking about centralized production, we are actually talking about decentralized production, so this is completely wrong. Open source, collaboration, common theorist, decentralization, public funding. Okay, this can be the answer. Proprietary software, we are not talking about proprietary software at all. We are not advocating for proprietary software, or you can say, and privately owned software. We are not dealing with that, and we are not patent protection, we are not also dealing with patent protection as well. So this is completely wrong in itself. Competition is alien in itself. Let's look further, because we are not talking about competition here. Corporate control can be the knowledge monopolies, common theories. Obviously competition is not being mentioned here, and if you compare 2 and 4, clearly 2 is the better option here, so 2 has to be the correct answer to this question. So this is it for the session. I hope you like this session.